How's everybody doing?
Great.
Doing well. How about you?
Great.
Doing well. Doing well. Well, first, I'd like to ask folks to give a warm welcome and send love to these leaders from East Cleveland that are with us today.
Thank you.
A warm welcome, y'all.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Roger.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so we're going to talk about community organizing and coalition building for high-quality grocery stores in Greater Cleveland. How about it? We're going to talk about two recent examples in the Greater Cleveland area of successful efforts at community organizing to bring high-quality supermarkets into working-class neighborhoods. And then we're going to talk about an active campaign going on, led by these folks beside me, to bring high-quality grocery into the city of East Cleveland. Up here, we just have some key ingredients of some things that we learned over the past 2.5 years or so through implementing two supermarkets, one in the city of Euclid, over at East 260th and Euclid Avenue, a Simon supermarket. And then also one in the Buckeye neighborhood of the city of Cleveland over at East 116th and Buckeye. There was a kind of broad coalition effort, and we learned some lessons there. All right, and so some of those key ingredients to kind of making this work. First, and most importantly, mass democratic participation in the process. Having hundreds, if not thousands, of residents who live in the neighborhoods participate in this process in a fair and democratic way. That is a key ingredient to making this work. Two, governmental support. What is the role of the public sector? We're talking county government and local government, naming the city of Euclid, the city of Cleveland, and the County Board of Health for really stepping up and supporting these projects. Accountability for stability, and what I mean by that is when supermarkets are held accountable through mass participation from residents, that can bring the quality up and help these supermarkets stabilize. Racial tension around both of these projects were central. And engaging with that racial tension directly, talking about it, feeling the anger, understanding it, wrestling with it, so that we could get to a place where folks felt good and folks felt heard. And that was very challenging, and I would argue is a central challenge to Cuyahoga County, but particularly to high-quality grocery stores existing across the county. And lastly, transparency. We need local government, regional government to be transparent among constituents, particularly when public dollars are going to these projects. So the Euclid supermarket. For that supermarket, we secured $650,000 in statewide funding, $125,000 from the city of Euclid. So Euclid City Council had to vote, and they unanimously voted to deliver $125,000 to the project. The store in Euclid is 27,000 square feet. It employs about 40 workers, most of whom are local workers. And just to give a sense of, after the first 10 months of operation, they brought in $4.6 million in revenue. $1.6 million of that was for fresh meat sales, and $400,000 of that was for fresh produce. And so from a store owner's perspective, they feel very good about revenues in Euclid so far. They expected to reach these levels at the third year, and they reached them at the first year. And a key explanation that we have for that is because of the mass participation in the process that really helped stabilize this store. All right now, so this is the Buckeye Supermarket. This store just opened. I hope if y'all get a chance, you can stop by at East 116th and Buckeye, see what you think. You like it, talk to the workers, how they feeling, look at the prices, check out the quality of the meats, the produce, see for yourself what's good, what's bad, what can we learn from it. I would note that with this project, public funding influenced the store owner's decision to implement in the Buckeye neighborhood. And I would just like to shout out this city of Cleveland for making a bold move around this project. And I'd also say listening to hundreds of Buckeye residents that were organizing around this issue. The city of Cleveland put up almost $1 million to help make this project happen. And then additionally, there was about $900,000 in loans from a statewide funder to allow the store to be possible in the Buckeye neighborhood. So I just say both of these projects are examples of health equity, because in Cleveland you have citywide resources being concentrated into the Buckeye neighborhood. I would argue a very working class neighborhood. And similar in Euclid, you had citywide resources and statewide resources being concentrated into the most working class ward in the city of Euclid. In Buckeye, it's a 55,000 square foot store, double the size of the Euclid store, and they currently employ over 80 workers. About 90% of those workers are local and live in the neighborhood. Here's just a photo of there's a soft opening that they had just actually a few months ago now. Just give you a little sense of the supermarket, the produce section over there. The mass participation, I just wanted to put numbers to it. So in Euclid, over a process of about 9 months, over 570 Euclid residents participated in that process. And in Buckeye, we had over 600 Cleveland residents participating in that process. And just to give you a sense of what we mean when we say participation. So this is actually at the Euclid store about a year after it was opened. And word had just hit that a supermarket was going into the Buckeye neighborhood, but there was a lot of mistrust around the store that was coming in. So we organized a forum in Euclid where we had Euclid residents come out and Buckeye residents come out to participate in this event so that residents could ask the store owners questions directly and start to set standards around quality and expectations that residents wanted to see in Buckeye. I would also say that the cross-neighborhood pollination and support and unity was very important. So Euclid residents were able to share their lived experience with this store directly with Buckeye residents. I'll note the city of Cleveland showed up, the planning department was here, Euclid leadership was here, residents are here, store owner was here. And so these are the type of forums, when I say mass participation, there'd be 100, 150 people coming out, directly engaging the store owner and setting demands throughout the process. So this, 2 Giant Eagles closed in the city of Cleveland about a year, probably a little over a year ago now. And I just have this here to demonstrate that grocery stores matter a lot. These folks, this is the Giant Eagle over on the west side, and there was probably about 300 people at this protest because folks saw the Giant Eagle was leaving the neighborhood. They were upset, and they were trying to either pressure the Giant Eagle to stay or to try to find solutions to bring in another grocer. At this time, I would note that Giant Eagle is closed on the east and west side, and there was multiracial unity around this crisis and east and west side unity around this crisis. So you had Buckeye residents coming over to the west side supporting residents on the west side and vice versa. It was a beautiful thing, and I think a shared alignment across these neighborhoods. So just to give you a sense of when we're talking about mass participation and the demands that were developed throughout the process. So this is the results of the resident organizing in Buckeye. There was dozens of forums that were held. There were written surveys that were compiled, both in the presence of elected city leadership. County Board of Health folks were there. Store ownership was there. And so these are some of the things that residents prioritized. It's maybe a little tricky for folks to see, but so for example, no expired items on the shelves. Residents want to feel that they can trust the labeling and that expired items will not be relabeled with false dates. Because that's been a problem, particularly in working class neighborhoods. We see that more in grocery stores. They want a variety of fresh meats and produce, including a selection of organic produce. Affordably priced, high quality food, not rocket science. Folks want quality and affordability. They want a well-lit parking lot. They wanted a police officer or a security guard on site. They wanted employment opportunities for residents, so that was huge. They want jobs, J-O-B-S. And I will note that residents came out loud and clear that they wanted to make sure that criminal records would not bar any of their neighbors from employment, and that was a central demand of residents. And initially, I would say the store owners, I don't think they really got what that meant and why that was a clear demand. But quite frankly, it didn't matter, because when you have hundreds of residents aligned and the city of Cleveland that just gave you $1 million, the store owners, so they met residents where they're at, and they agreed, we'll hire folks with records, no problem. But I would just note, it was, again, this mass participation that made sure that resident demands were going to be met. Motorized carts, convenient hours of operations, et cetera. So this was put into letter format with petitions that were signed by Buckeye residents, and it was handed to store ownership. And the way that store owners expressed it, they understood very clearly that these are the criteria that we need to meet if we're going to be welcomed into this neighborhood and able to stabilize the store. This was over at the Buckeye store as well. I just wanted to note, so residents organized a job fair, and at this job fair, over 150 applications were filled out. The jobs bring people out, and so this was Buckeye residents making sure that their neighbors were going to get these jobs. So they had the support of the city of Cleveland and store ownership, but I would note that residents were in charge of this job fair. They collected all the applications. They helped to mentor residents to help them through the job application process, and then have kind of followed up to try to work through issues that workers might be having to try to keep them in those jobs long term. Some lessons learned throughout these process. One big one, high quality grocery can thrive in working class neighborhoods, particularly when we have mass participation. Political will matters. In both of these cases, politics mattered. Having elected officials really support these projects was critical. What helps, I think, political officials take stands is that you have hundreds of residents, voters, that are aligned on these issues. Folks want high-quality grocery. Pathways for black ownership of stores. Ideally, in both neighborhoods, very strongly in Buckeye, but also in Euclid, folks wanted to see black ownership of these supermarkets. That was the ideal, and that was very important, and I think a consistent theme heard across this. Black ownership, but also wealth building, making sure that local residents got these jobs and that there's actual opportunities to build wealth in the neighborhood. And also democratic ownership. I think people are very interested in cooperatives, grocery cooperatives, but finding a way to keep that money in the neighborhood and build wealth within those neighborhoods. Transparency and accountability, both from the city perspective, I think from the city of Euclid and city of Cleveland, being transparent with how decisions are made, how funding is distributed, because this is taxpayer dollars. We want to build trust. We want residents to understand how their tax money is flowing, and that there's accountability attached to those taxpayer dollars. So can we claw back public dollars if a store does not hire 80% of residents that work in the neighborhood? Can we claw back dollars if they're mislabeling food? Just having some real accountability there. Focus on racial tension. Don't run away from it. Put it out there front and center. Talk about it. Embrace some of that anger, work it through, and try to find solutions. Quality and affordability. People want that stuff. All right, East Cleveland. So in East Cleveland, there's a strong campaign and a strong coalition that's developing to bring high-quality grocery to the city of East Cleveland. The most important ingredient that we've talked about, mass democratic participation, I would argue that East Cleveland is very well positioned because of a grassroots organization called NOAH, the Northeast Ohio Alliance for Hope. My background is in building democratic organizations, trade unions, mass coalitions, et cetera, and I've seen a lot of different coalitions. And I would say that NOAH is very powerful and effective. For example, they have monthly meetings. And at those monthly meetings, they'll have 50 to 100 residents, people who live in East Cleveland, attend and make democratic decisions around the strategies and priorities of their organization. And I think that central tenet is why East Cleveland can and will succeed around this campaign.
Give Roger another hand. He's been so great. I really appreciate our collaboration with our coalition building with Roger Sikes. He's been so great with our community. He's been basically an extra organizer for NOAA too, and so I just really appreciate that. You guys hear me? Hear me well? All right, so NOAA, I just want to, I brought this up because I thought I wanted to share like with you guys our values and our ideology around community building and everything. The most important element in community is the people, right? The people element and everything. And so it's our motto to invest in people, develop leaders so they can transform community, because I think without those components put together, how are you really improving community? And I guess when I bring up that value statement right there, you kind of think it's kind of like I guess a little frustrating, because when you think about that value and you think about how does that play through our history, and if we're honest, we can't say that that's been our value system, you know. And so I pulled this quote from a study that was done. History is called History Matters. I think Gregory Brown is in the room. He participated in it along with the Kerwin Institute. Policy Matters. Well, long story short, what they said was policies are expressions. That's supposed to be expressions. I'm sorry. Well, express representation of our values. And when we listen to that quote and we think about like what that really means, and then we look at our history and the history of like how our cities became the way they are. How these inequities that we see in our communities and everything, how do they manifest and everything? And I would argue that what we see is that, you know, that our values probably wasn't the same values that I mentioned around like investing in people, developing leaders to transform community. And so this is our basic analysis, right? And so here in Northeast Ohio, just like other legacy cities throughout the country, we have a legacy of policy, planning, and development practices that were influenced by race and class. That's one truth that we have to like really own up to, right?
Yes.
Amen?
Yes.
Y'all can clap if y'all want. Then it says communities in Northeast Ohio were intentionally targeted with debilitating zoning practices, racially restrictive covenants, redlining practices that disproportionately destabilize communities of color. And I think we have to own up to that, because I mean, I'll get to that in a minute. So, and then it says, system of inequality throughout Northeast Ohio is still resilient today. In other words, those structures, those systems that were created back over 100 years ago based off of racial motivation and class and fear and anxiety and all that kind of stuff, is still resilient and showing prevalent today. And so when you look at different communities throughout Northeast Ohio and you see a lot of different disparities and everything, we can't really wonder, because we know what it is, right? And so this map was pulled out of the History Matters study that was done, but it's a redlining map. And I would argue, if you take this redlining map, and not argue, you just go look at the research, right? It says it. Ask Greg Brown, he'll tell you, right? So you can look at all the places that have been invested in by redlining, and you can overlay poverty, you can overlay foreclosures and subprime loans, infant mortality, lead exposure, chronic illness, life expectancy, and you'll see that all these things overlay. And so the one thing that we're like declaring, hey, this was intentional, right? And so the question I have today, does this reflect the values that we have right now, right? And so some of the other things too, so another with the Robert Johnson Foundation, and I can't remember the other organization. Well, long story short, they initiated this thing called Place Matters, and you guys know about this. I'm probably preaching to the choir, right? And so you guys know, the disparities just a couple of miles away. And so there was an article on Cleveland.com that was posted a while back that basically showed the difference between Glenville and Lyndhurst, a 12-year difference in life expectancy. Now that means something to me, because I moved back in East Cleveland back in 2006, and I was gung-ho, and I moved there knowing what I was getting into, right? And I think I knew that there's a lot of struggles, there are a lot of inequities, but I wanted to be a part of what fixed it, right? But things are a little bit different now, because I have a family, right? I got married since then, got 3 kids, been busy, right? 3 kids and everything. But yeah, you can clap for that anyway. And so, But long story short, I worry about my children's future because when you look at these type of stats, this is real. This is serious. This is a matter of life and death. What school will they go to? Will they make it out of high school? You know, what about the food access? All these other different types of things that these studies say, and they're really good predictors about life expectancy. So I have to do one or two things. Either I have to move or I have to work to improve my community, right? I chose to stay and work to improve my community. And so these are things that are like, that are out there that we just know that, you know, we have to own up to the fact that like these policies were shaped by race and class. These policies were unfair. They intentionally limited opportunity to certain groups of people. And then 100 years later, it's still a resilient system that's going on today. That's something that we have to just acknowledge and declare. Because the trick is now, I mean, well, I guess the sort of like the narrative, the trick narrative now, the lie that's been spoken is that it's those people's fault that live there, right? But that's not the entire case. And I think so. This is a study. This is a quote by Derek Chapman, who worked for the Virginia Commonwealth University. He was another part of that study with Place Matters. And Chapman basically said, high rates of premature health in inner city communities like Glenville are not driven by gun violence. Rather, he said, they are fueled by heart disease and chronic illness that result from poverty and lack of access to healthy food and safe places to play. Now, when you look at that, why aren't we fixing that? Why aren't we doing anything about it? Where's the urgency at? When literally a decade has taken off, more than a decade has taken off individuals' lives in an American city, where's the outrage? Where is it? And so that's why we're working so hard to actually work towards this campaign. And so I got a couple of NOLA core team members here today. You give them a hand. And they're going to come up and just share a little bit about their experience. We're going to start with Belinda Gray. Could you come up, please? Give her a hand as she come up. She's trying to act shy, but she ain't shy.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. I stand before you to tell my story itself. And for me, I work in the city of East Cleveland. I work for NEON under the infant mortality program. I know more than a decade ago, for me personally, going through a divorce, my socioeconomic composition changed from a double income to a single, being a single mom, having to go on food stamps, you know, so I can only buy so much. And because of a very endearing pediatrician, you know, my second child, suddenly became obese because of the nutrition. You know, I was buying cheaper food to stretch $1, you know. And my daughter, at the age of 10, was like 60 pounds overweight. And what Trevelle said, I had to make a decision. I had to fight the problem or move. Well, I wasn't strong enough to fight the problem within my community, 79th and St. Clair. So I decided to uproot my children so that I took nutrition classes, learned how to budget my money, and to buy better quality foods. The other 4 kids weren't happy. What happened? Why we got to eat healthy all of a sudden? Because it was about me wanting to change my child, want to change her lifestyle, put something positive and give her some structure, you know? But it just wasn't for her, it was for the wellness of the entire family. You know, so, you know, years go on and my socioeconomic increased, but those new practices that I had learned, we still practice today. So by me being in East Cleveland, I, you know, worked there now. I've been there almost 2 years, and I linked up with Noah, and I'm very passionate about it because me working under the infant mortality program, the parents that I encounter, this is primarily a struggle for them. Nutrition. children's dental. I mean, something so simple. I know I've worked 3 jobs to pay for dental for my kids, but here are moms that I work with who can't do it because of the high fructose in the foods and the preservatives that rots their teeth, and the excessive weight gain, the lack of exercise that they have, no access to. So I am here with Noah, with Neon, to bring about change, to improve quality of life. Thank you.
Let's give Shirley Hatcher a hand as she comes up. I don't know why they thought they could come and not say it. I don't get that.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shirley Hatcher, and my story is I'm the 7th child of John and Doris Hatcher of Whitsett, Pennsylvania. My father was a coal miner for 60 years, and my wonderful mom gave birth to 13 children. Mom and Dad set the mold for us to work hard and to set the goals for your family and your village. They said that all those that pray together and work together can achieve the highest goals. Today, I'm a dedicated villager, meaning that my lifestyle persisted of my mother, my father, my aunts, my uncle, the next door neighbors, people down the street. They all had permission to guide me, to spank me, to plant seeds, to harvest seeds, to build, to harvest. We all worked together. There was no difference in the color, age, or anything. We just worked together as a common goal. And those are the things that I carry with me today. So, being a dedicated villager, and I do that in East Cleveland, I live on Shaw Avenue. I'm also a proud member of NOAA's Northeast Ohio Alliance for Hope. Then again, hope, that is the key. And I'm also a proud mom of 2 grown daughters, 6 grandchildren, 1 grandson, raised with the same integrity as I have about what family means, about what the village means, about taking care of your neighborhood and fighting for the things that you need to do, to plant your seed and watch it grow. My goal, means so much to me, and I'm so glad to see you guys. My goal was to work and pray with my fellow residents, to work with the city, to work the council, for us to create an avenue where we protect and we support, we fix and we create. For our future, for me, I'm a senior citizen, for my future, because I see a long way for me to go. My family lived to be almost 100 years old, so I got a long way to go, and I got a lot of fight left in me, okay? And thank you. And I'm raising my grandchildren to do the same, and I'm raising my neighbors' grandchildren the same. They're all of my children, okay? We're all brothers and sisters. So we need to get real, spread the love, spread the word, and help in all the ways that you possibly can. Our current object is to getting and providing for our precious city a grocery store. One that I have a hand on in creating what I would like to have in my neighborhood. One that brings people that I see walking the streets all day long, which have no guidance, they don't seem to understand what to do, that they can bring jobs in to this country, into my city. Some beautiful people in East Cleveland. There's a lot of things going on in East Cleveland, but there's a whole lot of people that's putting us down. But if you take the time, come and visit us at our NOAA meeting, our town hall meetings, or city meetings, you'll be surprised what we're doing. We're not giving up. Forget the backlash on the things that people are saying about East Cleveland, because it's not true. I want my grocery store to provide the same quality food and things that I usually have to go out to other stores to get what I need. I do put money in my neighborhood, but when I want quality, I have to go outside of the neighborhood. It's not fair.
Yeah.
I am a United States citizen and I vote, and it's an honor and a
That's
privilege
right.
to be a voter,
That's
and I
right.
did that.
That's right.
Okay? And I was one of those people, I just raised my children, single mom, raised my children, had a job, retired, I'm a homeowner, but my work is not done. My work is not done. So I talk to people to get them out there to vote for this midterm election that we have. It's a powerful thing. Knowledge is so powerful. When I hear people say, well, my vote don't count, if you don't submit it, I guess it don't. Come with me. Come with me on my journey like I used to watch with my grandparents. Come with me. We will work together to achieve this goal. So that is what I'm fighting for a healthier and happier community. So it can be in walking distance, so it can be in driving distance. I like to have delivery service. Why not? So that this money can go back into our community and we will all be able to distribute this wonderful value of food and health and knowledge and give people proud so they can stand with their head up high like I do. Trust and believe in God and anything is possible. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, Shirley. So we have the mirror up here because, if policy is a reflection of what our values are, when you heard these two wonderful testimonies about like why it's important for us to have quality access to healthy foods. It should be like something that like every American should have, right? Everything, but it's not. And so that reflects our values. And so here's where we're at right now. So we're here somewhere. There we go. All right. Okay. So the question is, what are our values moving forward, and what is our sense of urgency, right? We work tirelessly to actually make sure this thing actually happens, right? But everything, but this is how our campaign goes, right? So it says this is our proposition for county government, right? This is what we're fighting for. So when somebody asks you, what is that campaign for quality grocery stores? What is that thing? So one of the things that we believe that like when you see market failures happen within society, especially those ones that affect the quality of life of people, it's the role of government to interfere, right? To intervene. Am I right? Is that anybody took that government class? Raise your hand if you took that government class and said that. I just want to make sure I wasn't. There you go. I know Mr. Brown had my back right there. So long story short, we expect Cuyahoga County government, our county government, to actually step up to help, take leadership in this role. And so what we're looking for the county government to establish a policy that subsidizes the challenges of implementing high-quality grocery stores in underserved communities. How's that? All right? Is that a good proposition?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. And so when we think of that proposition, this is sort of like the parameters of the values that we want sort of like included in there. So the spirit of this policy, we want to have these elements, right? And so the first one is accountability. That goes without saying, right? If you get government money, especially, right, you should be accountable, right? And so grocery stores implemented through the utilization of this policy and government subsidy must be accountable to community. So really creating some type of structure by which, the local community basically to hold them accountable to actually implement a high quality grocery store and maintaining that standard, right? Is that a good thing? Y'all can clap for that. And so this next one is high quality. And it can be sort of like, this statement can be very, very vague and everything, but like we really want to refine that. And so presently, standards that are set by policies that regulate grocery stores doesn't necessarily ensure the standard at a level that a community would consider acceptable. Am I right about that?
That's right.
Okay, y'all can say amen if you want.
Amen.
So this policy would ensure that grocery stores implemented through this process would achieve and maintain the mantle of high quality based on the metrics established by community. Is that a good thing? Is that what you guys would want in your community? Okay. Y'all can speak back to me if you want. And so an example is like healthy locally grown food options, limited amount of unhealthy offerings. I got that one from Carla. I remember she was talking about that. Clean stores, no expired food products, no price gouging, etc. How many people know it's more expensive to live in a poor neighborhood? How many people know that? A lot of people don't think so, right? It's actually more expensive.
Sure is.
Right. And so this last one I think is key because understanding around like health equity, health equity is just a cog within the system that we deal with and everything. There's so many intersections that affect communities that have been divested in for so long and everything. And so we thought that we put this economic pathway in. And so the third value statement basically is economic pathway for local communities. And so it says, understanding that healthy food access is one part of a system of inequality in Northeast Ohio, we believe that the implementation of a high-quality grocery store should also be economically viable and responsible to the local community. Therefore, we will prioritize Black ownership. Y'all can clap for that.
Yay!
Okay. Pathways for economic inclusion through mandatory local hiring, and then supply chain entrepreneurship opportunities. And so we want this thing to be sort of like holistic within our community. And so there's one more. I think I forgot to actually program it to go there, but I'm just going to push it over there, right? And so this is the proposition for you, right? Y'all see that? Yeah. Y'all see that? Okay, this is the proposition for you. And so what are your values, right? What are your values moving forward to build a community or Northeast Ohio that can set the pathway for the next 100 years? Do you share the values that we have as far as investing in people, developing leaders to transform communities? Do you share in the values that we have as far as that every community in Northeast Ohio should have a high-quality grocery store where they can get healthy food options? Do you share that quality? And so this is the proposition for you. If you believe in this campaign for quality grocery stores and underserved communities, the one thing you can do is to get your institution to sign on to this campaign. And that's simply by just getting my contact information, Dr. Roger Sikes over there, his contact information, sending emails to us and everything, saying that you want to sign on and sending logos so that we can build up that coalition. The second thing that we asked, and I believe, Wanda, did you put petitions at everyone's tables?
Yes.
So get petitions from us. We have online versions and we also have paper versions, right? And circulate them within your circles. I think we've already collected how many, Roger, so far?
We're at 1,350.
Okay, 1,350. So that's good.
Lot of work.
So one of the things that we realized, everybody here is from East Cleveland, right? And we know we want a grocery store in East Cleveland, but we know we can't win this thing alone, right? A lot of these other neighborhoods, they were able to actually get local funds to come in and help subsidize, the implementation of a grocery store, but we don't have that option. But I would argue that there's other communities that don't have that option as well. And I think so we have to build a broad coalition in order to win this thing. That's what we're dedicated to do. And so circulating those petitions within your own circles will help build us that power. And then the final thing is to support the campaign. We're planning on actually conducting a public meeting. We're organizing that in 2019. And we would like your participation to come and actually participate in that public meeting.